Hello, everybody. It's good to be back with you. My name's Brandon Adams, and this is Go With The Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews. And for our big mega bowl spectacular, where we look at all the bowl games over the course of the next couple of days, we've got everybody in person with us today, which is the first time in a while we've been able to say that on this show. Connor Riley, Mike Griffith, Jeff Sintel, a part of the Dog Nation team. Of course, our buddy Dari Payro from R.S. Andrews as well. And we will pick all the big bowl games against the spread, starting with the game on Wednesday between Florida and Oklahoma, or I should say, including that game, Georgia and Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl, the college football playoff, and everything in between. We will certainly look forward to doing all of that. Let me just kind of give you an update on where things have been with us since the last time we got a chance to speak. Obviously, I've been away for a couple of weeks. I missed our last show, but the gang here did make their picks for the conference championship games. It was supposed to be a slate of final regular season games there on December the 19th. And we had a very interesting group of results here. We'll throw those up on the screen firsthand, give you an idea to see kind of where things stand and the drama that exists in our season-long competition as we head towards the final few games of the year here. Mike Griffith does remain number one in our Go With The Flow standings presented by R.S. Andrews. He's at 53-42 on the year, but a losing week last time out at 2-4. We've actually got some movement in the number two spot. Connor Riley now moves up to number two. You see him there on the screen at 3-3 for last week. Connor disputes my score on that. Admittedly, sometimes tallying these win-loss records, especially for a show I didn't participate in, can be just a little bit tricky. But for now, we'll call Connor 51-44 on the season, 3-3 last week. That does move him by a narrow statistical margin ahead of Jeff Sintel, who's at the number three spot after an 0-6 week last time out, 46-41 on the year for Jeff Sintel. Dari Payro, winning record for him. He's at 48-47 after a 2-4 week last week. Dog Nation daily listeners and viewers, they are at 40-41. And I am bringing up the rear right now at 43-46. But the good news there is I haven't had a losing week on this show in like 2 months. So a bit of a rough start for me, but a little bit better here over the course of the last few weeks and a bunch of games to pick here this week. We'll explain how the game goes, but first let me remind you of how it is we're able to do this show for you each and every week. Our buddy Dari Payro, who you will hear from in just a moment, obviously a big time part of what goes on there at R.S. Andrews, the source that we trust for all of our air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and electric needs here around Dog Nation. Listen, it has been cold the last couple of weeks. I'm talking about really cold around Christmas, and obviously there's nothing more we love this time of year to get bundled up, toasty and warm inside a cozy house. But if your heating system's not working the way that you think it should be, obviously that makes it much more difficult to do. So get the peace of mind you need for the long, cold winter that's on its way by checking out our friends R.S. Andrews online at rsandrews.com. As far as the game itself, many have been watching all season long, but if this is your first time tuning in, let me explain how it goes. In just a moment, we'll take a look at the big games of the upcoming next few days. The Dog Nation team of Mike Griffith, Jeff Sintel, Connor Riley will weigh in. I'll share my thoughts. The Dog Nation daily listeners and viewers, they'll have a chance to share their thoughts. And at that point in time, a consensus will be formed. We will then ask Dari Payro, do you want to go with the flow and join that consensus? Dari very often, very frequently, goes against the grain with his picks. That's what makes it fun. And, of course, we invite you to play along with all of that as we do. Any questions? Good. Let's move on now and get into a very busy slate of bowl games. We're going to pick all the ones involving SEC teams. We're going to pick all the ones involving top 25 matchups. And, of course, that also includes the college football playoff as well. Let us start in Atlanta on Friday at noon, the Peach Bowl. Georgia is a 7-point favorite against Cincinnati inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Mike Griffith, start us off on your thought on the Dogs.
Yeah, I'm surprised the spread's that close, but, Cincinnati is undefeated. Obviously, they didn't play any games out of conference, and neither did Georgia. Great stat for you. Georgia's undefeated when they score more points than the other team. I think that's what's going to happen here in the Peach Bowl, and I think Georgia's going to win big because the way that Cincinnati has won the game, being able to run the ball, throw the ball, they're not going to be able to run with number 99, Jordan Davis, in the middle of that field. They're going to become one-dimensional very quick. And I think the receivers are going to have trouble getting freed up against this Kirby Smart defense. This is a lopsided blowout kind of game. It's going to be 41-13. It could be much, much worse. But this is the kind of game where they're going to get Zamir White about 20 carries, and try and get him as many touchdowns as he can to pad his NFL resume.
So Mike Griffith all over the Georgia Bulldogs here. Jeff Sintel, what do you think?
I heard that very large spread from Mike Griffith. I don't know if it's going to be that widespread, but nonetheless, to keep the train rolling here, I'm going to say Georgia will win this victory, and they will do it by a lot more than 7 points. Definitely laying the points and taking the Dogs by a much bigger number this week.
A lot of Georgia so far. Connor Riley, how about you?
I like this game a lot more if it was at 6.5 where it was earlier in this week, but I'll take Georgia here minus the 7. I'll say they win by 2 touchdowns.
So Connor Riley on the side of the Georgia Bulldogs, Dog Nation Daily listeners and viewers, as you might imagine, they to the tune of 91% like Georgia here, minus the 7 points. Dari, I am also on Georgia. I probably don't feel as confident about the game as maybe you heard from Mike a moment ago. Maybe I'm a little bit more in line with what Connor said. For me, as much as Georgia fans want to see a lot from JT Daniels and see the explosive nature of this passing game, it was really against the run that Cincinnati showed some vulnerability against Tulsa a couple of weeks ago. Tulsa, probably a better team than some folks give them credit for, and they amassed nearly 200 yards on the ground against Cincinnati there that day. Some of that was subtracted because of some sack totals, but the 2 top running backs of the Golden Hurricanes had some success on the ground. To me, that speaks to how Georgia gets it done here as well. Not to say that JT Daniels doesn't get a chance to throw it, but I think even with a little bit of a makeshift Georgia offensive line, there is probably still a little bit of an advantage to be gained at the line of scrimmage. So give me Georgia minus the 7 as well, but not by 20-plus points or anything like that. I don't think Georgia gets it done to that kind of tune. But nonetheless, I do take them to cover, and that's a clean sweep on the side of the Dogs. Dar, you want to go with the flow and take UGA?
I want to take Georgia here. It looks like an easy cover. Last year Georgia had 13 opt-outs, and I knew even with that they were going to beat and cover Baylor pretty easily. Their second string did that. Who knows where the opt-out final count lands, with Georgia in this game. But this game is a much different scenario than the Baylor team they played in the bowl game last year. Cincy wanted this moment. They're in the Peach Bowl against a big heavyweight. These kids have dreamed about this moment. They've had a great year. It's a well-balanced team. The want, the desire, the heart, the extra effort, the bloodshed is going to be there for Cincy in this game. Their team is really good on both sides of the ball, and this is going to be the best defense Georgia has faced all year. A lot of people were disappointed with the draw for Georgia, hoping it'd be another Power 5 matchup. So my question is, can Georgia get up for this game? That's been an issue in the past, not the most recent bowl games, but it has been an issue. I think this is going to be a really hard-fought game. I'm taking Cincy to cover this game. I'm pretty confident in it. Georgia's going to win this game. I'm very confident in that. But I think this is going to be a game of a lot of field goals.
By the way, Dory, I should say you look great in your festive attire here today. Very fitting. Certainly great to see you with the Georgia Santa Claus hat on. An interesting pick there. I should also point out on a much more serious note, Dory referencing the still unknown status of some of the Georgia players as we're getting ready to record this on Wednesday afternoon when we're recording the show. Sad news was just dropped a few minutes ago that the father of Georgia running back James Cook and Minnesota Vikings running back Dalvin Cook has unfortunately passed away. That certainly puts James Cook's status in doubt for the Peach Bowl on Friday, and obviously that hits close to home for me. So certainly I join everyone who you see on your airwaves right now wishing just a ton of positive prayers and well wishes to the Cook family here. So sad to hear that, but obviously it is certainly a factor what will happen potentially on the field on Friday there as well. So you hear the thoughts on Georgia Cincinnati. A lot of folks on the Dogs, Dari willing to go the other way. And with that, we're off and running here on Go with the Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews here today. Let me talk about the game now that will take place on Wednesday. It is the Cotton Bowl with the Big 12 champion Oklahoma, one of the hottest teams in the country to end the year, really drawing some comparisons also to the way that Georgia finished its 2020 season there as well. They get a chance to host Florida. The story for the Gators, a ton of opt-outs. In fact, we're actually going to pick this game at a much smaller spread than it's commonly found right now. And we want to be very clear about that we're going to call Florida a 3.5-point underdog here. But it's looking like Florida now at most betting houses, depending on where you shop around for this, probably more like a touchdown underdog here in this spot. No Trevon Grimes, no Kadarius Toney. We're going to operate on the number that we started the week with, which is Florida plus the 3.5. So with that in mind, Mike Griffith, start us off on the Cotton Bowl between the Sooners and the Gators.
I didn't hear anybody crying any crocodile tears when Jordan Davis and Julian Rochester and Richard LeCounte and George Pickens missed the game against Florida, and Georgia was still playing with a backup quarterback. And so I'm not going to, complain here. And look, Florida's got players. They got guys on scholarship. These teams haven't played a long time. You got to go back 2009, Tebow and Bradford. It was a great game. I think this will be a great game. And I'm going to have the surprise Florida cover. I got Oklahoma winning, but I'm gonna take your 3.5 points. Connor's licking his chops, thinks he's got an easy one here on me because you guys sandbagged this point total. I'm going to make it Oklahoma 37, Florida 34. I'm going to take the Gators in the points.
Jeff, what do you think about the Oklahoma Sooners and the Florida Gators? I think you may be muted again, Jeff.
All right, guys, that's a very interesting take, Mike. I am not going to ride with you on that one down the boat. I like Florida to win this game. I think they have a better football team. I think they're better defensively, even minus some of those defections right there. I like Florida to win this game. I like Florida to win this game by about 7 to 10 points in this one. So I'm definitely countering our current season leader here.
We've also got the potential of maybe some breaking news happening as we're recording the show, so we may lose Jeff for a minute. If we do, we will we'll certainly catch up with him here and there in a moment. But thus far, split decision on the Sooners and the Gators here. Connor, Riley, what do you think?
I was tempted. I was really hoping Mike would pick Oklahoma, go the anti-Florida route there. But knowing that I have to make some ground up in the standings, I'm going to go Oklahoma here. This is an Oklahoma team that's gotten better every week of the season. They play pretty well against Iowa State. They've gotten better each and every time I think they've played, especially after nearly starting 0-3. I think they want to be in this game. I think they know the Big 12's reputation is sort of at stake, especially given all the Sun Belt losses they had earlier in the year. So give me Oklahoma to cover the 3.5 here.
Dog Nation Daily listeners and viewers agree with you, Connor. 78% say Boomer Sooner here for this game. But two quick thoughts from me on this. First of all, there was a very interesting recently story at 538.com, which is the analytics side, on the difficulty professional gamblers have had this season when it comes to college football. And the who's playing, who's not question obviously factors pretty heavily with that. But a lot of the gambling folks I follow on Twitter have essentially arrived at the conclusion that we make too much out of these widespread absences. Now, Mike pointed out injuries for Georgia, and clearly it seems like Jordan Davis, Richard LeCounte, guys like that not playing for UGA, pretty significant. But the larger sample for college football says subtracting a decent number of players off a roster, if it's not a star quarterback, therefore it's probably not that big of a deal. I'm going to assume the same thing is true for Florida here, which is missing big names but not missing Kyle Trask. I also remember what has happened the last however many times that Oklahoma has played SEC teams in postseason, whether it be LSU, Alabama, obviously go back to Georgia in the Rose Bowl a couple of years ago. It has not been a very favorable matchup for the Sooners. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to take Florida. And by the way, I'm paying a pretty heavy premium for this because the actual line at most live betting houses is much better than this. But as much as it pains me to say it, I'll take the Gators here plus the points. That puts the flow, though, on the side of Oklahoma. Dar, you want to go with the flow and take OU?
Wasn't it on the side of Florida? Because Mike took Florida, Jeff took Florida.
I meant to say Oklahoma. Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So, as much as I'd like to see Florida, end their season on a 3-game losing skid, I think they're going to get a win here, even without Pitts. I like Florida as a dog, getting points in this game. I think Oklahoma's defense has been pretty good the second half of the season, but they haven't played any team with caliber offense like Florida's. I think their defense is going to be good enough to make some plays. I think this is going to kind of have a similar flow to the game as the Florida-Ole Miss game earlier this year. I really love the over, which is 67.5. I think there's going to be a ton of points being scored in this game.
I think it's a pretty good game. I'm with Dari on that. I think it could certainly be fun to watch, and obviously differing opinions on exactly how it plays out. We'll see how those Florida absences impact the game. On a very different note now, a big step down in terms of entertainment value and competition sees Tulsa taking on Mississippi State. I believe this game is on Thursday. I believe is at noon. Trivia question. Does anybody know what the name of this bowl is?
It's not the Gasparillo Bowl.
No.
It's not
It
the
is the
Birmingham Bowl.
Armed Forces Bowl. It takes place
Bowl.
at Amon G. Carter Stadium, which I believe is in Fort Worth, Texas. It is Tulsa, fresh off a narrow loss to Cincinnati in the American Athletic Conference game against Mississippi State, who, let's face it, probably doesn't feel much like a bowl team. SEC team actually an underdog here. Bulldogs getting 2.5 points. Bulldogs also fresh off a pasting of Missouri to close out the regular season. Mike, where you want to go on Tulsa MSU?
Yeah, I like that momentum, BA. I think Mississippi State is better than Tulsa. I know Tulsa's coming off a disappointing loss to the Bearcats in the AAC championship game. Tulsa only 3-2 on the road this year. Haven't played great away from home. A team that's point differential really is not going to scare you. 7-point, really 6.5 point differential in the year. They average 27. They give up 20. Mississippi State at a -8. And you saw Mississippi State play Georgia relatively well not too long ago. And Will Rogers is a guy I don't think there's anybody he's met that doesn't like him. He's off to a great start as a freshman there. I'm going to pick Mississippi State to win this game.
You have to be like 100 years old to get that joke, but it was pretty good nonetheless.
Mississippi State wins this game 37-24.
Oh, there you go, Mike Griffith on that. Jeff, what do you think about the Maroon Bulldogs and the Purple Cartersville's the Purple Hurricanes. Tulsa's the Golden Hurricanes. What do you think about the game, Jeff?
Guys, I would say Golden Hurricanes there. I think some of Michael's jokes, Mike Griffith's jokes belong in the Golden Age or on the Golden Girls. I'm gonna keep.
Jeff, that was really good.
I'm doing this while I'm writing a story too, guys. I could do this all day. Speaking of what we can do this all day, is if it takes much longer than 7 words to say Mississippi State will unravel the Hurricanes this weekend. We're kidding ourselves. I like Mississippi State big. Brendan, you could have told me the line was 21 points. I probably would have taken Mississippi State in this game.
Wow, that's certainly a bold statement. So it's Mississippi State on both sides here from our scribes thus far. Connor Riley, how about for you?
I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this game. I don't even know why we're picking it. This Mississippi State team isn't good. Tulsa's defense can play. Give me Tulsa here to cover the 2.5 point favorite.
Wow.
So that's Connor Riley there.
They're a favorite.
Dog Nation daily listeners and viewers disagree. 55% on the side of the SEC here in Mississippi State. Here's one very important thing to know. This is not a joke. One of the best players in the country actually plays for Tulsa. His name is Zaven Collins. He's a linebacker. But my understanding is he is not playing in this game. That's the only thing I know about this game. That's enough for me to take Mississippi State, especially getting the points here. If Collins plays, I take Tulsa because I do think they're probably pretty good team. But in his absence, that's at least worth taking a flyer on the Bulldogs. And that puts the flow on the side of Mississippi State. Dar, you want to go with the flow and take Mississippi State?
Can't do it. I'm strong on the American Athletic this year. I think some of their teams are better than people give them credit for. I think Tulsa has one of the better top defenses in the country. Mississippi State's offense ranks outside the top 100 in the country in both total yards and scoring. Tulsa is going to win and cover this game pretty easily.
Very strong pick there from Dari Payro. I certainly join you in saying that AAC, probably an underrated league. Tulsa probably underrated within that league even. Should be an interesting one, at least from a gambling standpoint. With that said, we now turn our attention to Auburn and Northwestern. Is this the Outback Bowl or is this the Citrus Bowl?
Citrus Bowl.
This is the Citrus Bowl in Orlando or whatever it's called now. Auburn, obviously without its coach, huge number of opt-outs here in recent days. Northwestern stands, at least with the number we're going to go with, as a 3-point favorite here. Mike Griffith, what's your thought on Northwestern as a favorite over the SEC Auburn Tigers here?
Yeah, perception's amazing. Northwestern lost to a really, really bad Michigan State team. You can't take that away at home. I mean, this is just not good. Now, they made Ohio State look bad, but if you read the Ohio State people, they'll tell you it's because Justin Fields is trying too hard these days. I'm going to take Auburn to win this game easily. The last time they met, it was a shootout in the Outback Bowl. That was probably what you were thinking about, BA. back in 2010. Both programs probably better than now. I think Auburn wins this game, though. As long as Bo Nix is on the field, I'm going to go with the Tigers to win this 31-10.
Jeff, what do you think? Northwestern 3-point favorite against Auburn.
This one feels a lot closer than that to me, especially. I mean, I would have went Auburn, especially just with the difference in ability, especially some of Auburn's maybe difference makers. But I think there's a continuity thing. We all know what's happening in Auburn. You see some of their highly touted players opting out. There's even rumors that more of their players might do a lot more than opt out. I think right there, I think it's going to be a very close game. I think Auburn wins by a touchdown. That sort of close game right there. I think the Tigers will have just enough. I think Northwestern and their staff will do a great job of keeping this close. But I like Auburn to win this one by about 5 or 6 points, which should still put me on the side of taking the points in Northwestern on this one.
So a lot of Auburn thus far. Connor Riley, what do you think?
So Mike loves to mention that Northwestern lost to Michigan State, but I heard at no point in his answer that this Auburn team also lost at South Carolina, which is just as bad as Michigan State was this season. So with that in mind, I think this Northwestern team wants to play here. Pat Fitzgerald is obviously a very good coach, and I think they're going to come out and want to play. Tank Bigsby is a we'll see if he's going to play in this game. If he's not playing, I like Northwestern by more than a lot. So give me the 3.5 points, and I will pick the favorite here to cover.
Yeah, potentially some juicy drama with Cartavius and whether or not he plays in this game here, and certainly what that could mean for the future weeks after that. So I definitely have my eye on Tank Bigsby and his potential status for the game. And, of course, that was addressed this week by the Auburn coaching staff. They're saying they're certainly hopeful that he does play. Even if he doesn't, believe it or not, I still like Auburn here in this game. I think that they're actually pretty close to my, bowl lock of the year of the week here. I just think that this is a classic example of, as we said before, sometimes you make a little bit too much about who's not playing, not enough about who is playing. And there is still a talent edge in place on the Auburn roster. One of the things I cite from time to time is that the preseason AP Bowl can be pretty predictive for bowl season because you subtract all the recency bias out of this and go back and look at what we thought of teams before the season began. When the season began, we clearly thought there was a heavy edge in favor of Auburn over Northwestern. The last few weeks may lead us to believe something different, but sometimes that most recent information can be incorrect. So from that standpoint, I'm going to go with Auburn here. By the way, I should also give the Dog Nation Daily listeners and viewers some credit. They go the other way, 58% taking Northwestern. But the flow here, though, Dari, still on the side of the coachless and in some cases missing player Auburn Tigers, but that's where the flow is. You want to go with the flow and take Auburn.
No. Pat Fitzgerald has Northwestern balling. Their defense is really good. People don't give them credit for it. And guess what? When you give Pat Fitzgerald time to game plan, that's going to be the difference maker in this game. Remember, I told you this of how good of a coach he is. The Green Bay Packers wanted Pat Fitzgerald number 1, and then Matt LaFleur was number 2. Look at how good Matt LaFleur is doing in the NFL. Look at his record over these past 2 years. It's amazing. And they wanted Pat Fitzgerald. He's the difference maker in this game against a coachless team. I think they're going to get some key turnovers. They're going to make it struggle for Bo Nix, and it's going to be a traditional Northwestern close, ugly game. Book it, keep the money, bet the game.
Thank you.
Am I remembering this correctly to say that 2 years ago, Auburn dominated a Big Ten team, Purdue, in the bowl game, but last year was not able to get it done against Minnesota? Am I remembering the last 2 years with the bowl games correctly?
That sounds correct. Maybe the Purdue game was maybe like 3 years ago, but that sounds about right.
Yes, so there you go. Very strong take there from Dari on the side of the Fighting Fitzgeralds and Northwestern here in this spot. We now move on to look at our next game on the bowl slate here. It's North Carolina State against Kentucky. Kentucky is a 2.5-point favorite. What bowl is this?
I believe this is the Gator Bowl.
This is the Gator Bowl. There you go. So Kentucky, a 2.5-point favorite over NC State. Mike Griffith, your thought on the Wildcats given 2.5 here?
Yeah, it's a fitting game for that stadium and for college football. These teams really fit it. I like Kentucky. They got a very good run game and a very good defense. The last time these teams met, Kentucky won 27-2 in 1970. How about that? I think North Carolina State is going to score more points this time around, but I don't think they're going to score enough against Big Blue. Kentucky, now a football school, wins this football game 24-19.
Jeff, what do you think? Kentucky, 2.5-point favorite against NC State.
Kentucky, NC State, SEC, ACC. I don't know if I caught all of Mike Griffith's answer there. As I was typing, I'm sure he said something about basketball in Kentucky and maybe changing the metaphors there a little bit. I like Kentucky. I still like the pieces they have. I still like the physicality that they bring. I like Kentucky to win this game, probably about 7 to 10 points. So give me Kentucky there. I think the line you just stated there was 2.5. So give me those Wildcats. Big Blue.
Connor, Riley, how about you?
Yeah, it's NC State team. They're the only team this year to beat Liberty. They found some ways to win some close games here. But, they have quarterback issues. Their starter was lost for the year at no point of the season. I took them against North Carolina. That came back to bite me. So I'll take Kentucky here. I think this team wants to play. I think they want to be here. I think they like that, even though I think they won 3 games this year. They get the bowl experience. So I'll take Kentucky here as a favorite.
Dog Nation Daily listeners and viewers agree, 63% on the side of the Wildcats. I won't pretend to know or at least have a strong feel or edge on this game, but Connor actually pointed out something that I thought was very interesting about NC State here this year, the fact that a Liberty team that has certainly proven itself to be good, NC State was certainly able to play with them every step of the way earlier this season. That's enough for me, plus the notion that I get some points. That's enough for me to go on the side of the Wolfpack here. I'll at least take a flyer against a Kentucky team that I don't think is quite as bad as it looked in that rough stretch while it was at Alabama and then at Florida, but probably not quite as good as some people have tried to push them to be quite there as well either. Give me a flyer on NC State. The flow, though, I believe, is on the side of Kentucky. Dar, you want to go with the flow and take Kentucky?
No. I think NC State is the better team. So I'm going to take the better team, and I'm going to take those points.
There you go. That's all that needs to be said right there. I like where you're at on that, Dar, and it makes me feel good to know that you're on the same side of me when it comes to the Wolfpack. Next game to pick on what is a busy slate for SEC teams in bowl action over the course of the next couple of weeks. The Orange Bowl in Miami with Texas A&M and North Carolina. Of course, UNC, a team that pasted the NC State team we just mentioned a little earlier in the year. But this will not be the same Tar Heels team at all. They have had a huge number of opt-outs going into the Orange Bowl. Of course, we know the story with Texas A&M. Probably felt like they should have been more involved in the playoff discussion, but ultimately could not shake the negativity surrounding the blowout loss to Alabama early in the season. That's who they would have been rematched against had they made the college football playoff. They are those 7.5-point favorites against the Tar Heels. In the Orange Bowl, Mike Griffith start us off, A&M and the UNC.
Yeah, you kind of wonder if A&M's going to have that letdown like Georgia did when they got left out of the playoff. I don't think so because A&M hasn't been to the top of the mountain like the Bulldogs were the year before. I think the game means more to Texas A&M. You mentioned all the opt-outs for North Carolina. That's a factor. North Carolina doesn't have championship depth. I'm going to take the Aggies 31-20 over the Tar Heels.
Jeff, what do you think? A&M 7.5-point favorite in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think what is A&M? Probably playing for a number 3, maybe number 4 overall final ranking with the win. I'm surprised you haven't seen so many opt-outs from A&M, especially with very little on the table to play for. I like A&M to win this game. I like A&M to win this game by about 10 to 14 points, and I think they're going to look very impressive doing it. I do not think that there will be any hangovers whatsoever, at least against a North Carolina team that has kind of been leaky defensively all season long.
Should point out there are still some unknowns for A&M around the opt-out situation, including key offensive linemen. So there is still some watch going on for A&M there. But as of now, their roster situation appears to be better than the North Carolina situation, certainly for sure, in terms of who's playing, who's not. Connor, how about you?
Yeah, I thought I was ready to take Texas A&M. Mike and Jeff made great points, but the more I thought about it, I didn't hear a name from either of the two of them. Sam Howell, he's the better quarterback in this game. I don't know if A&M they just haven't played the type of football. They want to run the football, control the clock. They don't want to play. They want to blow you out, which is another reason I think they ultimately ended up missing the playoff because they weren't all that impressive against the likes of LSU and Auburn late in the season. So because of that, I still expect A&M to win this game, but at 7.5 points? Is that what it is? Give me the Tar Heels there, and that extra half point looms rather large.
I've been a big A&M backer all season long, but I can't deny what Connor just said there. Sam Howell is the better quarterback in this game. Of course, that doesn't stop Dog Nation Daily Audience, 81% from taking Texas A&M here. And, Dari, my reason for going on the Aggies here is actually pretty similar to something I heard Mike Griffith say a moment ago, that you can't compare A&M being left out of the college football playoff to Georgia being left out in the college football playoff if you want to go back to, say, 2018 when the Dogs lost to Texas in the Sugar Bowl. That was a step down for Georgia from where they had been the previous year when the Dogs had been in the college football playoff. This is not similarly a step down for Texas A&M. If anything, Texas A&M plays with more eyeballs on them in this game than they are used to having. They want to validate what was a momentum-building season for Jimbo Fisher. Huge salary there. This is a quality of life issue for Jimbo here. I think A&M plays with its foot on the gas against North Carolina. To echo Connor once again, the presence of Sam Howell does not make UNC easy to beat, even with the opt-outs. But I think this game matters to Jimbo. I think it matters to the Aggies. I think they want to win, and that's enough motivation to allow them to coast beyond the 7.5. I like Texas A&M here. The flow on the side of the Aggies, you want to go with the flow and take Texas A&M.
North Carolina's offense is explosive. I think the thumping they put on the Canes will have a lot of the public money jumping on them, taking the points. But like we said, there's a lot of opt-outs. Their best 2 running backs are out. Their leading wide receiver is opted out. The captain of their defense and first-team All-American is sitting out. And, oh, my goodness, their defense already sucks. And now you lose that guy. I think Texas A&M is going to have no problem moving the ball and scoring. I think Texas A&M defense is going to make a lot of plays. I like them to win by double digits pretty easily.
So there you go on that. Next game, Fiesta Bowl, Big 12 runner-up, Iowa State against Pac-12 champion Oregon in this spot here. You want to look at the point spread. Iowa State sits as a 3.5-point favorite. Mike Griffith, your thought on the Cyclones and the Ducks?
Yeah, nothing. No duck jokes this week. I know you were waiting on. I'm not going there. Connor was waiting to make a face or scowl at me. I'm not doing it, Connor. And I'm also not going to give you the pick you want. Connor trying to make up ground. I'm going to take Iowa State. Listen, Oregon had lost 2 games prior to beating USC. And, they lost. What did they lose to Cal? And I'm trying to – Oregon State, I think, beat Oregon this year. Listen, Iowa State it's a good football. They're well coached. Anytime these guys can get away from that city that their college is in, they're going to celebrate. And this is who wants to be in Iowa? Let me just say that. It's cold. It's flat. There's not much there. The cornfields have been cut down. The deer aren't even happy there. So Iowa State's going to enjoy this trip and beat Oregon 31-24.
Jeff, what do you think? Iowa State as a 3.5-point favorite in the Fiesta Bowl against Oregon. By the way, all players in this game do get a PS5 as a part of their bowl gifts.
Wow, that's the biggest thing right there already. They can sell that PS5 for about, $1,200 right now on eBay or the black market. I heard some imagery and some visuals there from Mike about cornfields. They are still playing this game in Arizona, correct? They're not playing this in Iowa, right?
Yeah, Ames, Iowa will not be a part of the locale for this.
Yeah, there's just a disparity in talent between these two schools. Iowa State's got a good staff. They've got a staff known for knocking off some heavyweights. Although I do think the Pac-12 Oregon Duck champions are paper champions. I think they opted their way into the title game. They still won it all. I'd look for some of Oregon's bigger players to make headway in this game. I look for Oregon to win this game by about 10 points.
Connor Riley, what do you think?
This is, I think, my lock of the week of the bowl season. Give me Oregon here. I like what Kayvon Thibodeau is going to do. He was the best player on the field in that game against USC. Noah Sewell, I'm surprised Jeff didn't actually say his name there, one of his favorite prospects coming out in a while. This offense sort of looked like they were starting to figure things out a little bit there against USC. I think this was a disappointing season for them, even though they did back their way into winning a Pac-12 title this season. But I think they're going to want to prove something, say, hey, we're going to be a team to really be reckoned with next season, especially because a lot of their opt-outs came at the beginning of the season. So as the underdog, they're the more talented team. You mentioned the AP poll. They were the higher-ranked team in the AP poll, in the preseason AP poll. So give me the Oregon Ducks here as a 3.5-point underdog to win outright.
Dog Nation Daily Audience agrees. 66%, 2-1 margin, take Oregon over Iowa State here. I'll be very honest. I think the Pac-12 has played so little football this season, it's almost impossible to make any kind of effective evaluation, at least for me. Connor sounds very confident. I couldn't be nearly as confident on either side here. The Texas-Colorado result probably scares me off of taking Oregon, Big 12 team, against what was a depleted Colorado team, missing a lot of players. Longhorns found a way to get that done earlier in the week. That's enough for me here. I agree with Mike. Matt Campbell's a good coach. Not to say that Mario Cristobal is not, but for an Oregon team, I'm just not really quite sure what they bring to the table here at this point in time. I know what Iowa State brings to the table. I've seen them enough this year. I'll back them minus the 2.5. I'll take Iowa State. That puts the flow on the side of Iowa State. Dar, you want to go with the flow and take the Cyclones?
Yeah, I don't put a lot of weight to games and victories in the Pac-10. I think it's a weak conference. I think the American Athletic has better teams this year than the Pac-10. Iowa State has been great pretty much all year. But I'm leaning Oregon with their talent and getting some points here. Give me the Ducks.
I may have incorrectly stated the flow as well. I believe the flow was on the side of Oregon instead of Iowa State. But nonetheless, you hear Dari make a pretty strong case for Oregon there in the Fiesta Bowl. We'll be back to Georgia-Cincinnati before we're done on the program. Let me remind you one more time, though, about our friends at R.S. Andrews. You can find them online at rsandrews.com. Listen, this is the time of year when you want to be at home, enjoy your time, or safe and healthy with family and friends, and there's nothing that messes that up more so than when something in your house messes up. Let's say your water heater goes out. Don't forget, in many cases, R.S. Andrews can replace your water heater the same day. It's one of the reasons why I take such great pride and have such great confidence when I recommend R.S. Andrews to you. You can find them online at rsandrews.com. So we'll do Georgia-Cincinnati again before we're done. Let's do college football playoff right now. A historic point spread, not just the college football playoff, but one of the highest point spreads in bowl history, sees Alabama as a 20-point favorite against Notre Dame in one of the national semifinals, the Rose Bowl taking place in Jerry World in Texas. Are you following all of that? Mike, your thought on Bama, Notre Dame, the January 1st college football semifinal?
Yeah, I would have picked Alabama to win this game, but the last outing for Alabama against Florida was so shaky for the Crimson Tide defense. They just looked shaky. They didn't look like the same, and we've kind of seen that, right? In the postseason, the last couple of years, it just something happens. Saban might say that they're thinking about the NFL or whatnot. I think Alabama wins this game. But I think Notre Dame's going to cover. I could be way wrong. I was there the last time they played in Miami. I thought that game, I was way wrong on that one, and Alabama won that one 42-14 down there in Miami Gardens. But for some reason, I just feel like Alabama doesn't put the throttle down. I'm going to take Alabama to win 38-20. I'm gonna jump on those 20 points and ponder the Indiana Ole Miss pick while you all are picking this up. We haven't picked that game.
Oh, I skipped that one? All right, we'll circle, but let's finish this one, then we'll circle back and do that one quick here in a moment. Jeff, sorry about the Hoosiers and the Rebels there. Jeff, what do you think about Alabama and Notre Dame?
Brendan, I don't think Lane Kiffin was going to tweet at you for missing that one. I think things will be fine there. Mike Griffith pontificating about Saban and putting the cruise control on in the third and fourth quarter. I was ready to hear an argument from somebody on this panel about how Notre Dame has at least played two very good football games against Clemson. They've been in four-quarter fights. They've played really upper echelon teams. Man, that makes me almost smell what Mike Griffith is cooking. But right now, that kind of looks about as stale as a 4-week-old fruitcake right now out of South Georgia. I'm going Alabama. Devontae Smith is still in this game. Alex Leatherwood is still in this game. Mac Jones is still in this game. Alabama, a whole lot of points, whole lot of offense, whole lot of Steve Sarkisian trickeration. I think this is a coronation march for Saban and his boys, and I think they will hand it to the Irish.
What do you think, Connor?
Alabama, print the shirts.
Yeah, it's hard for me to make an argument for Notre Dame here. And one of the things that comes down to me for this game, by the way, I should also say, you can tell I'm out of practice in this show. It's been a while since I've done it. I'm not giving the audience their credit. Let me see what the Dog Nation Daily audience is doing here. 98% take Alabama. That's as big a audience consensus as we've ever seen. Dog Nation Daily audience liking Alabama to the tune of 98% there. Here is why I can't make an argument for Notre Dame. I think Ian Book as a quarterback is probably overrated. He has done some things for the Irish this year, But so much of that for me is with his legs. I don't see Ian Book making the big throws. He has had a very successful year, and he gives Notre Dame a chance to win almost all the games that it plays. But you can't be the runaround guy against the Alabama defense. You got to be able to do it with your arm. That's what Kyle Trask can do. And I don't take great pleasure in saying that, but with Mullen's system and Trask's ability, he was able to make the throws in the SEC championship that at least kept Alabama on its heels. I don't think Book is capable of making those throws. And I definitely buy into the long track record of Notre Dame just not showing up in these type of games. In 2018, we said, this time it's going to be different than it was in 2012, or at least some people did, and it wasn't. People said in the ACC championship game a couple of weeks ago, it's going to be different this time than it was in 2018, and it just wasn't. I don't think this is going to be different either. I believe, Dari, this can be as bad as Alabama wants it to be. There's a chance they may even rest guys in the fourth quarter because it's just that much of a lopsided situation. The flow is heavily on the side of Alabama. Dar, you want to go with the flow?
Yeah, lots of points to lay against a really good Irish defense. Notre Dame got their butt whooping out of the way last a couple weeks ago against Clemson in the ACC championship game. They're going to be focused for this game. They're going to be full of fight for this game, full of some redemption. I mean, they have top-notch offensive and defensive lines. I think Ian Book's going to move the chains enough to keep this game close in the first half. In the first half. I think Bama's going to pull away big in the second half. They have way too much firepower. They're going to kick it up wide open and easily get the cover late in the second half.
All right, with apology, very good pick there. With apologies to Michael, who's producing and trying to keep up with all of this. Let's go back here and let's just do really quick rapid fire on the Gator Bowl, the Outback Bowl between Ole Miss and Indiana. With Ole Miss here in this game catching 8.5. Mike, quick pick on the Rebels and the Hoosiers.
Got Ole Miss winning 44-34, straight up winner.
Jeff, what do you think? Indiana 8.5-point favorite against Ole Miss. I think you may be muted again, Jeff.
I like Indiana to win this game, but I only like Indiana to win this game by about 6 or 7 points. If you're giving me about 8 points there for Ole Miss, I'm going to take the Fighting Kiffins in this one.
No doubt Kiffin is certainly fun as an underdog. I'll at least agree with that part of it. Connor, what do you think?
Indiana's offense has major questions, and because of that, I like the Ole Miss Rebels here as an underdog, even though, as it seems, it looks like they're about to have another opt-out.
All right, so we'll keep following those opt-outs. And by the way, we've already seen SEC Bowl cancellations. There's a chance that at least one of these games doesn't end up getting played that we picked here this week. Audience 61% do take Ole Miss here. Dari made a huge case earlier for Pat Fitzgerald, who is a good coach. I feel the same way about Tom Allen, the Indiana coach. I think that he's done an amazing job with this Hoosiers team this year. If we keep the theme going, and I'm a big believer of this, of preseason expectations mattering when it comes to picking bowls, by a slight margin, even though Indiana didn't get a lot of preseason love, they were at least thought of as on paper better than Ole Miss and first-year coach Lane Kiffin. I actually kind of like Indiana, even with a pretty big spread here. The flow, though, in this case is, I think, on the side of Ole Miss. Dar, you want to go with the flow, take Ole Miss, or do you like Indiana here?
The Hoosiers' defense is the real deal. Ole Miss defense, not so much. Absolutely terrible. With that being said, I think Kiffin is going to have this team fired up, and they're going to ball out for this bowl game. Even with all the COVID people out and all the opt-outs that he's dealing with right now, he's talking about not even maybe have the full roster to go there, but he's going to go there. I trust Kiffin and his offense more in this game. I love Ole Miss to cover this game. I think this is a great money line play for them to win outright. Love Ole Miss in this game and Kiffin.
I think it's a fun game to watch, and Dari, I really like your pick there. All right, with that said, let's go back to the other college football playoff national semifinal game, the one taking place in New Orleans, the Sugar Bowl between Clemson and Ohio State. Clemson is a 7-point favorite here, and there has been a lot of very candid chatter from Clemson coach Dabo Swinney about his belief that Ohio State, on the basis of a very meager schedule, not only playing a small number of games, doesn't belong in the playoff. Mike, how do you think this game plays out? Clemson's 7-point favorite.
Yeah, I'm really tempted to take Ohio State just because of that, bulletin board material. I mean, it's not often that Ohio State gets disrespected like that. I mean, they got an entire league that works around them, that works for them, that changes rules for them. They have the best recruiting in the Midwest. The state of Ohio is the Midwestern equivalent of Georgia in terms of producing in-state talent. So many other programs go into Ohio to recruit. Justin Fields, there's still people in Georgia that follow him along, even though he's had a terrible season this year. I just can't believe that Ohio State, with playing only 6 games, can be ready to play against a Clemson team that looks like they're really coming to fruition right now. They're really coming off a really impressive win. And Trevor Lawrence, to me, is the most talented person in college football. He's on a big stage. I'm taking Clemson to win and cover, even though I think Ohio State is talented and really good. I just don't think they can get in sync fast enough to keep up with a Clemson team that looks like they're peaking at the right time. I'm going to go Clemson 28-13 over the Buckeyes.
Jeff, Buckeyes catching 7. What do you think?
Let's see. Best quarterback in this game definitely goes to Clemson. More battle ready, more seasoned team definitely goes to Clemson. More overall talent. That might be a push on both sides of the ball. Give me Clemson in this game. Give me a lot of people maybe leaving this postseason thinking that, that gentleman down in Alabama won the Heisman Trophy, but the best player in college football very likely will be Trevor Lawrence. Give me the Tigers in this one. I think they will win this one by about 14 points.
Connor, the number is 7. What do you think?
Well, if this were 6.5 or 7.5, I'd feel a whole lot better, but I'm coming right down at 7. I know Ohio State's motivated. They feel like the refs jobbed them out of this game last year. Mike made all the points, and the most important one, that this Clemson team is just playing their best football right now at the best time of the season to be doing so. This Ohio State defense gives me major concerns, especially with what Trevor Lawrence is going to do. But I still think Clemson's going to win. But I got ground to make up here, so I don't feel great about it. I feel lousy. Give me Ohio State here to cover the 7.
71% of the audience disagrees. They take Clemson here. Dog Nation daily listeners and viewers weighing in. I'm really swayed by the fact that Ohio State did give Clemson a good game a year ago, and I understand what people say about that Ohio State team was better than this one is, and I totally agree with that. This Ohio State team's got some question when it comes to their ability to run the ball. They don't play defense, obviously, without Chase Young the way they did a season ago. But 7 here for me is a lot of points. And I think it's a huge misunderstanding to confuse undeserving the playoffs. And there was certainly a case that Ohio State was undeserving, at least an argument, having played so little football. Don't confuse undeserving with incapable of winning. Ohio State is still more than capable of winning this football game, and 7 points for a team like this is kind of a lot. As hot as Clemson has been as of late, it's also, with respect to Notre Dame, by far and away the best team that Clemson's played all season. I'll take Ohio State plus the 7, and I actually feel pretty good about that. Dari, the flow, though, is on the side of Clemson here. You want to go with the flow and take Clemson.
We get Fields versus Lawrence again. And the next time that they meet head-to-head will be in the NFL at some point. Connor, you should have just gone with your gut and taken Clemson here. In this game, Clemson is going to punch their ticket to the Natty versus Bama. We'll get another rematch of those two heavyweights. But I think Ohio State's going to cover this spread. Dabo has given way too much bulletin board material at a level I've never seen before on a stage this big for a game this big. I mean, this is like crazy calling them out like that, ranking Coastal Carolina ahead of them. I think that's just like disrespecting Day and that team, and he's going to fire up those guys because their character, their manhood has been questioned. They're going to come out and leave everything on that field, but it won't be enough for them to win because Clemson's the better team.
I also think we have heard some nitpicking of Fields from draft scouts as of late for maybe holding on the football too long, things like that. So I think that Justin probably also feels like he's got something to play for and prove against Clemson. One way or another, I have a hard time believing this won't be the better of the 2 national semifinal games. Final pick here on Go With The Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews. We turn our attention back to the Peach Bowl with Georgia and Cincinnati, and the over-under set at a relatively low total of 50.5 here. A lot of Georgia games were in the 40s. Earlier in the year, this one does eclipse 50, but just barely. 50.5 is the number. Mike, you going to go over or under that total?
Yeah, it does seem a little high, BA, but the JT Daniels effect. I mean, this offense is, even with Kirby running the ball in the fourth quarter almost exclusively a couple times, I still feel like Georgia is going to be able to score enough. I don't think Cincinnati can stop Georgia. I just don't. They had trouble stopping Tulsa, the Golden Hurricane, and they haven't played anyone. They just haven't played anyone. This is going to be a different level of football. I mean, this is, 1A versus 8A. I mean, this is AAC versus SEC. It's indoors. It's climate controlled. I mean, JT Daniels put 49 on Missouri in a 13-mile-an-hour wind and 30-degree wind chill, and now you're going to put him in Southern California temperatures, with something to play for. So I'm going with the over here. That 41-13, I feel good about that pick.
I should also correct myself on something earlier in the show. When I mentioned the Golden Hurricanes of Tulsa, I confused them briefly with the Purple Hurricanes, and I gave Cartersville High School credit for that. I should also point out that Monroe area is also the Purple Hurricanes here in the state of Georgia as well. So let me just make sure I get all of my mascot nickname stuff taken care of there. Jeff, with that said, over under of 50 and a hook.
I tell you what, listen to Brandon. He's back and he's already doing this job well. He's bucking for the executive director of the Georgia High School Association as well, trying to be fair and balanced and partial to everything. The matter at hand is the over-under, Brandon. So did you say it was around 50? Is that where the number is
50 and a half. Yeah, 50 and a half.
Yeah, this feels to me like a 31-10, 34-14 type game. I'm going under there because I can kind of see Georgia getting the lead and then kind of just not trying to motorboat things here and just kind of maybe not keep that jet flying too high, maybe keeping it under the hard deck for all those Top Gun fans out there. I think Georgia wins easily. I don't think they get over 50.
Couple movie references there in that statement, if I scored correctly. Connor, how about you on the over-under of 50 and a half?
Memory serves me right. Georgia has hit the over in every game that JT Daniels has played so far this year.
That is a good stat. I can't confirm that, but it's
That's
good stat.
correct. That is correct.
50, it feels real close to the number, but I think Georgia's going to have to score 30 to win here. And because of that, this Cincinnati offense is proving capable. Man, I know they have a really good defense, and I'm making all the points in my head to take the under here. But again, JT Daniels is 3-0, and the over is hit every time. So give me the over here.
Dog Nation, the audience agrees. 65% do take the over in the game. Connor talks about the recent trend of overs for Georgia with Daniels at the helm. I hate to be the Grinch that stole Christmas here, but I still think that Georgia probably runs the ball more against Cincinnati than some people want them to. I kind of touched on that a little bit earlier in the game. That's enough for me to go under with the total here. I want to see Georgia go out and, do dazzling things offensively. Maybe they do some of that, but I do think that running the ball is a part of the equation for Georgia on Friday, and that's enough for me to keep it under. But the flow is on the side of the over. Dar, you want to go with the flow and take the over?
Again, looking at this from a 30,000-foot view level, it looks like an easy cover for Georgia, and it looks like it's going over. But I already said I like Cincy, and I think there's going to be lots of field goals, so I'm going to take the under here.
Well, there you go. That's certainly something interesting to think about. So here's what I think we should do as we get ready to wrap up. Let's see where the standings, because there's enough games here this week that can really swing the balance of power for the season. Could be that we have to reconvene at some point in time. And maybe, Dari, it'll just be you and me on a Dog Nation Daily or something like that. But let's get everybody back together at some point in time and see how these season-long standings unfold. And it could be we have to pick a national championship for a tiebreaker or something like that. But we'll certainly look forward to watching all of this play out. And to all of you, hope you enjoy the bowl action here this week. Dari, especially you, since you've got the Santa Claus hat on. You're still in holiday fare here. I hope that you have a great time watching these bowls here for this week.
Yeah, definitely. I had my hat on because I'm giving out gifts. Nothing but winners this week. This year's been tough, but I just want to point it out. I'm really, really confident in these picks this week. Last year, I was 13-1 in bowl games. Mike Griffith once talked about the regular season. Well, my best performances come when it's on the line in the playoffs, in bowl games. That's when I make the picks. You can have regular season titles. I play for hardware. This week, you're going to bank the money. I'm going to go 70+% winning, probably 8 out of 11 of these picks. I'm really confident in them. So anybody out there, this week right here, ride these picks. They should cash.
1-800-DARI. Just make those picks. Let's call it and get that money down.
I like it. I like it. Jeff, you had your hand raised a moment ago. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I got two things. One, this sort of feels like the Big Ten Conference jumping in here late. So Brandon at number 4, Ed Connor at number 3, and Jeff at number 3 can catch and move in late. I want the Georgia electoral board to be looking over.
Cut him off. I can't hear you. We're having issues here. I can't hear you right now.
I will say this on the way out the door here. There's nothing that speaks to the frustration of this season, and I mean this in all sincerity. Then when I go back and watch the last show that I was not a part of, y'all are picking games end up not being played. We've all got a different number of games. I got to get the calculator out to figure out winning percentage between Connor and Jeff. Like, there's nothing more frustrating than the fact that we've all got a different number of games that we picked. The games that we do pick end up not getting played. Y'all had to start the show last week with the idea that Georgia might get a different opponent and have to come back in and add an addendum for that. We've all done the best we can this year, and it has been, I would say, certainly more good than not from a college football standpoint. But every time you look around, you just see the evidence of what a difficult year it has been for so many. So we've tried to make it as fun as we can. And I look forward to finishing it strong with each of you. Sure enough, to those of you watching, those of you, the entire team here at Dog Nation participating, enjoy the next few days of bowls, and we'll certainly look forward to speaking to you again soon here on Go With The Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews. Y'all have a great day, everybody.
Go Dogs.